Okay, guys, we're going to look at 45, 45, 90 triangles and how you would label it with the formulas first so that you can find the measure of each side without having to do things like Pythagorean theorem and sine, cosine, tangent, the stuff that we're fixing to learn. So one thing you need to notice about a 45, 45, 90 is you have two angle measures that's the same, which means their sides opposite are also equal. So you're going to have this side congruent to this side. And so it's actually what's called an isosceles right triangle. So if you ever hear them mention it that way. Since these two sides are equal, we can call them x and x. Because if one side is 5, this other side right here that's also x will also be 5. And that just leaves us labeling the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse would be x radical 2. And always remember it's radical 2 for this one because you only have 2 degree measures you can be. You can either be a 45 or you can be a 90. So I try to use that as a memory tool to help me remember the radical 2. So the cool thing about this is, and you don't have to write this on your paper, I'm just going to write it out to the side as an example, is if you know x, say x is 3, then you know this side is 3, and then you know this is 3 radical 2. Or you could change it to 5. So just replace all those. If it was 5, then this would be 5, 5, 5 radical 2. So once we can discover what x is, it allows us to solve for the side measures very quickly. So the legs in this are these two pieces, x, and the hypotenuse is x radical 2. So let's try a couple of problems down here together. And so the first thing I always do on this is I mark off the y. I prefer not to have another variable out there confusing me. So when you label these, always label starting with the hypotenuse because that's the difficult side. That's the x radical 2 side on 45, 45, 90s. And that leaves the two legs being x and x. Now you walk around till you find the side measure. Now remember, this is a degree measure. A side measure will be labeled on the outside. So when I walk around, I find 8. So x equals 8. So this will be 8. And replace the x with 8. So 8 radical 2. So down here, there's y. You can put 8 radical 2. And over here, x would be 8. Okay, let's try another one. So let's mark off the y. Locate the hypotenuse. So here's our hypotenuse. So it's going to be x radical 2. Label the other two sides, x and x. Walk around till you find the side measure. So right here is 25. It represents x. So x is 25, so this would be 25. Replace the x, 25 radical 2. Now, if you ever need to turn it to a decimal, you would just plug that in the calculator. We get to our last one here. Mark off the y. Find the hypotenuse, label it, x radical 2, x and x. When you walk around, you notice your side measure is 19. Now 19 equals x radical 2. That's like a small equation. So 19 equals x radical 2. Now remember, x radical 2 is just multiplication happening there. So to undo multiplication, we do division. So you just want to divide 19 by radical 2. So once you type 19 divided by radical 2 in the calculator, you'll get like 13.435. So we'll just round that to the 10th place. So x would equal 13.4. So 13.4. And both of these would be the same measure. So 13.4 on both of those. Okay, so make sure you pause if you need to. I'm going to scroll down to the next, to the back side. So make sure you pause. So you can only do, you have to be aware when you do this, but look for the ones that have 45, 45. So that's 10, 12, 15, and 17. I'm going to do 15 with you because it has another radical in, and I'll probably do 17 with you. So when you look at this, mark off the y, locate the hypotenuse. That's going to be x radical 2. I'm going to just put my equal sign because there's a side measure there, x and x. Now notice this one's kind of special because you have radical 2 on both sides. They actually would cancel out, and x just equals 9. So that means this side is 9 and this side is 9. So 9 and 9. Pause if you need to. Okay, let's look at problem 17. So on problem 17, starting with the hypotenuse, so radical 10 equals x radical 2, and then you have x and x. So we're going to take radical 10 equal to x radical 2. And on this, remember, we're going to have to divide because these radicals aren't the same like they were in problem 15. They both are not radical 2. So we're going to divide by radical 2. And a quick way to do radicals is if they divide into each other, that's like 10 divided by 2, which is just 5. So it'd be radical 5 is your answer. And you could turn it to a decimal, but you could also just leave it exact. Okay, so there's how you do 45, 45, 90s.